Everyone's favorite is back. Keke Palmer's podcast is back, and it's too good. She has questions for days, and now she's diving into the brains of entertainment's best and brightest to get some answers. From Snoop Dogg to Jordan Peele to Quinta Brunson to John Stamos to Amy Poehler, Keke is getting to the bottom of the burning questions that keep us up at night. I can't wait to listen to her episode with Quinta Brunson. If you love Keke, you'll love Baby, This is Keke Palmer. She's her most authentic self, going all in on everything in her life and in the lives of her celebrity guests. Follow, watch, and listen to Baby, This is Keke Palmer on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. And now watch full episodes on Keke's own YouTube channel. Listen to Baby, This is Keke Palmer early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
Hey guys, it's Tana Mojo, and if you know me, you know I adore my handbags and always strive to keep them looking pristine. I've just discovered Keke, the ultimate solution for protecting and preserving my purse collection, ensuring they stay beautiful and last forever. I love that Keke will keep my handbag collection looking great for years to come. Think about it. If you clean and maintain your shoes, your car, or even your body, why not give your luxury handbags the same care? These bags are an investment, and with Keke, you can make them last a lifetime. Plus, if you ever decide to resell, Keke helps keep your bags in perfect condition so you can get top dollar. In today's world where overconsumption is a big issue, it's crucial to make things last as long as possible. By taking care of our handbags with Keke, we can do just that. There's a limited supply available, so head to mykure.com to get your leather care kit. That's MYCUIRE.com. The best way to make your handbag last forever.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. I know we late as hell. I promise I've been working, y'all. I've been working on Ratchet and Respectable, no less. I told you last episode I was going to Miami to do Ratchet and Respectable live for ABFF. Well, I made it by the grace of God. It took 2 days to get here. I'll give you the details in a second. I was supposed to do 2 episodes of Ratchet and Respectable at Cadillac House. Cadillac, the cars, the trucks. Did a really dope activation down here where they had artists perform, where they were doing interviews, and also where we hosted a live episode. Supposed to be 2, but it was 1 instead, of Ratchet and Respectable. We've talked about Cadillac before. I have a long relationship with them. They've been great sponsors, investors, if you will, in my art, my creativity, like whatever I'm working on. They try to highlight and get in on the ground floor, literally fund my dreams. So I'm very, very thankful that they brought me down. And it's part of the reason when I tell you the story of how I got here, you're going to be like, you did what? I wouldn't do it for everybody, just to be clear. So that's what I've been up to. So I was supposed to interview 6 people, actually 7 people. We lost one due to travel. She wasn't able to get in on time. I was supposed to do 6 interviews, 2 1-hour episodes. And because I wasn't able to get here on Thursday because of the weather, we ended up doing 1 2-hour marathon episode instead. It turned out really dope. It was, I'm going to mess up the order, Jessica Mbongo. Catch me if you can. She is the first Black woman to have traveled to every country in the world. She's also done every state in America. Some of them more than once. Some countries also more than once. I could have interviewed her for the whole 2 hours and swapped travel stories. Actually, everyone I interviewed, we probably could have done like at least an hour of good quality. Don't need a whole bunch of edits to make it interesting conversation. Ingrid Best from I Best Wines. She distributes South African wine. She went to South Africa on vacation and she got out into Stellenbosch and Franschhoek and wine country, went to the wine farms and was like, I ain't never seen no ish like this. And she grew up near Napa, so she knows wine and she worked with a bunch of companies. Diageo for sure, Moet Hennessy. So she grew up with wine. She worked in wines and spirits. And still, she got out to South Africa and was like, I ain't never seen no ish like this. I ain't never tasted no ish like this. Everybody needs to be drinking some of this wine. So she's on a mission to get everyone drinking her South African wine. Really, really fascinating woman. And she spent a lot of time in South Africa. So we talked about wine, of course, and travel in South Africa. And also race in South Africa. I don't know if you've been following the conversation about Tyler Water, her, and her racial classification. So in South Africa, she's called colored. But here in America, we would consider her black, biracial at best, but definitely not colored. That's not a term that we use anymore. So we had a conversation about the social construction of race. Scott Evans, one of my faves. I think I told y'all when I was at ABF Honors, I sat next to Scott and we just kiki the whole time, to the point that Jeff Friday, he and his wife Nicole run ABFF. Jeff was sitting at the table in front of us and turned around and gave us the father eye. Like, bring it down to a 10, the two of you, which we didn't. But we tried. It was a good time. It was very black. It was a very black room. We were okay. Scott was everything. Scott is a co-host on Access Hollywood, and he also is the host of a great show called Couple to Thruple. When I came back to the country, I asked people, and I was like, what did I miss? I remember on a previous episode, I was saying there are like gaps in my cultural knowledge from things that I'm just not aware of because I'm just not in the country, and I just miss certain conversations, certain music especially. But people are like, have you been watching Couple to Thruple? And I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me? So it's a show, like couples go on and they're looking for a third to add to their situation. So it's hetero couples, it's LGBTQIA plus couples, representation for all. But everybody was trying to find a third. And apparently, very many people were interested in Scott. And I was like, wait a minute. Nicole Friday, she's the president of Nice Crowd, which produces ABFF, ABFF Honors, ABFF Comedy, something else. There's an international ABFF, one in London. And she was like, and more to come. And I was like, so more to come, like Ghana or South Africa? Because I ran into one of their partners, one of the events producers after ABFF Honors. And I was like, you should really take the show on the road. And they were like, the show is on the road. And I was like, no. Like, I mean, on the road, like across the Atlantic. He was like, yeah, like London. And I was like, okay, so like the other direction. Just like straight across. Like you just go straight to Ghana. And he was like, we rolled that around. And I was like, have you? So he was like, stay tuned. There's more to come. And I was like, if you do Ghana, let me know. At the time, I hadn't really been in South Africa that much. I'd done Johannesburg, but I think Cape Town would be a really good fit as well. So I asked Nicole about that. And I was like, just throwing it out there. Lamont Rucker, that's the homie. He's on the Black Hamptons on BET Plus. I think we talked about this last episode, didn't we? I talk about stuff and then I edit it and I can't remember what I actually published. But we talked about Black Hamptons and also his approach to characters. Because I was like, would you ever play a villain again? And he was like, when I was on the soaps, I was a villain. But he was like, you said villain again, like I did a villain recently. And I was like, yeah, Jacob from Greenleaf. And he was like, he wasn't a villain. And I was like, bruh, are you serious right now? And then Nico and Nan, Uncle Clifford from P Valley, he is everything. That interview, overall, Ratchet and Respectable is pretty respectable. He brought the Ratchet. I don't want to give any details away. I had to step up my wit with him. He's very quick. And he's also, I can't wait for y'all to see this interview. He's an openly gay man. He was saying such slick shit on stage. At one point, I had to ask him, I was like, are you sure? The Kinsley scale is very sliding. And I was like, friend, I don't think you're a full 7. I was like, you might be a 5.5 or a 6. Check again. He literally knocked me off my feet. I cannot wait for you to see this interview. I'm still waiting on footage and pictures. Like, I've seen nothing. I've just gotten really, really good feedback. I hope it translates for audio. And also, we've got video. We just have to get it chopped up so we can get it on Instagram and also YouTube. So give me a little patience on that. Like, you see, I'm like running myself ragged right now. Speaking of running ragged, so I was supposed to come down to ABFF on Wednesday. I heard that there were some issues going on in Miami. I heard there was some weather, but my flight had not been canceled. So I went to the airport as planned. I had a 12 o'clock flight, I think. Yeah, because they picked me up at like 9:30. So get to the airport. I got there a little early. I get something to eat, legal seafood. I haven't had a proper crab cake since I got back. I'll eat seafood other places. I don't really eat crab outside of Maryland. I make an exception for New Orleans for obvious reasons. But otherwise, I'm like, what's the point? I think your crab might be great, but I'm just partial to crab with Old Bay and then whatever they doing down in New Orleans. I don't understand their cooking. I just like to eat it. Okay, so sitting at Legal Seafood and I get a notification that my flight has been delayed to like 12:30. Okay, that's fine. That's like right after our order. By the time I asked for the check, my flight had been pushed again to like maybe 2:30. By the time I pay, my flight has not only been pushed again, I think to 4:30 or 5, but then in quick succession, like 5 minutes later, they canceled the flight. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Are you kidding me right now? Trying to figure out what to do next. So I called my producer and I'm like, hey, my flight's been canceled. Can you get me on another flight to Miami? I mean, clearly there's a weather situation right now, but maybe later in the day, we'll try again. So he was like, okay. So corporate travel books me on another flight. It's a layover. So I fly to Detroit. I have an hour layover from Detroit to Miami. Okay, no problem. I hang out at the airport until maybe like 5 o'clock. It's only an hour and change to get to Detroit. Fly to Detroit. We leave the gate 20 minutes late. So I'm kind of nervous about this layover. And I'm like, Detroit's airport is pretty efficient. They have shuttles and everything. But I'm just like 40 minutes to get from one flight to another. And really more like 25 because they closed the gate 15 minutes early. I've made the mistake, trying to show up in like 5 minutes. And they're like, no, ma'am. But both times that happened in Atlanta. Like I was at the airport and they were like, no. Okay. The captain hauls ass, gets us to Detroit at like 5 minutes after we were originally supposed to land. I'm good to go. I'm going to make this flight to Miami. I'm going to be able to go on Thursday as planned. I am literally texting my producer, just landed in Detroit with enough time, going to make the flight to Miami. We good. I put my phone back in my bra strap. That's where I keep it when I'm on the plane. I left my phone once. This was years ago in the little pouch in front of me on the plane and somebody stole it. Luckily, I travel with 2 phones, but somebody stole it. And this was 2011. When we didn't have more or less free data or a data plan for international, somebody ran up $15,000 in international charges for my airtime. And no, I didn't have to pay it, but I was shook for 30 days while AT&T sorted it out. So the phone in my bra strap, I get a text. I think it's my producer hitting me up. It's Delta canceling my flight due to weather. Not only are they canceling my flight from Detroit to Miami that night, there are no additional flights for the rest of the night, and there are no additional flights for the next 48 hours. I'm in Detroit. What am I supposed to do? So I'm trying to figure out, do I fly back to DC? Do I stay overnight in Detroit and try again for another airline in the morning? Try to get to Miami, try to get to Fort Lauderdale because it's like 35 minutes away and just drive over to Miami. I end up flying back to DCA that night. I think my flight left at 10:20. I get in at like 11:30, 11:40. The airport is damn near empty because it closes at midnight. When I land, because we've been scrambling all day with my flights and my ground transportation, there's some like mix up. There's also no cars available because of the time of day. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? There's no Ubers available because the airport's about to close. So the cars aren't near the airport. The taxis aren't near the airport. Also, because the airport's about to close, there's not a whole bunch of flights coming in. So there's not a bunch of people standing around. And ended up calling my mother and was like, can you come get me? She was like, yes, I'm on my way. So I'm sitting at the airport. It's thinning out. I'm definitely not standing outside because it's like Walking Dead. There's nobody out there. And I was like, not safe. So I go back in the airport. I'm sitting in baggage claim because there's just a few people mingling around. I'm like, safety in numbers. And then I see this guy. And I was like, yo, he looks like... And then I was like, shit, is that? And I was like, what is he doing in D.C.? Because he's supposed to be on my panel in like 2 days. Shouldn't he be in Miami? I see him and I'm like, Lamont? I've known this man at least since 2008, 9. He used to come hang out at the Essence offices all the time. I think he might have lived nearby. I used to go to lunch all the time on 10th, and I would run into him at this like hole-in-the-wall Mexican spot. So good. I have no idea what the name of the place is or if it's still there. I haven't been there in years. But yeah, it's Lamont Rucker with his hat real low, like people ain't gonna recognize his whole face. But he was trying to find his car. His car was actually coming. And then he waited with me until my mom got to the airport. He walked me to my car when my mom got there and he put the bags in. And there was absolutely no reason for my mother to get out the car, but she like insisted because she was like, Harpo, who this man? She was like, you always find some big giant man. I was like, I mean, I like giants, but not him. Like literally, he's like big bro. I call to ask his advice about like men and relationships and whatnot, like strictly the homie. My mom didn't know I'd been flying around God's green creation. She thought I had sat at the airport all day. So I'm bringing my mom up to speed on the saga that has been my life for the entire day. We drive 30 minutes back to the house. We're turning the corner to pull into the driveway. And my mom goes, I'm thinking the lady's having a heart attack, a stroke, an aneurysm. Like, it was a horrible noise. And I'm like, oh my God, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay? And she was like, that was Jill Scott's husband, wasn't it? Mommy, I'm thinking you about to go to see the king. You're trying to ask me, was that man from that Tyler Perry movie? Ma'am. Making big money moves feels good. And with the Chime Secured Credit Builder Visa credit card, you can make everyday purchases to work toward bigger things. Start building credit with everyday purchases and regular on-time payments, all with no annual fees, interest, or credit check at chime.com/ratchet. I love the Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. You can use it everywhere Visa credit cards are accepted and build credit using your own money. I also love that with Chime, I have access to more than 50,000 fee-free ATMs. That's more than the top 3 national banks combined. And you can easily find an ATM near you with the Chime app. With Chime, turn everyday purchases into steps toward your financial goals with Chime's secure credit card. Get started today at chime.com/ratchet. That's chime.com/ratchet. Chime feels like progress. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by the Bancorp Bank North America or Stride Bank North America. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal and OTC advance fees may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. As a winner of Apple Podcast Show of the Year award, Code Switch is the sort of show that handles race and identity like you've never heard before. Regardless of what color you are, Code Switch knows that every identity is part of every story. I've listened to Code Switch for years. It's one of my favorite podcasts. When so much of the world talks about race in ways that either feel preachy or alienating, Code Switch is interested in how race and identity shape your world in real and confusing and sometimes funny ways. From discussions with comedians of color about what makes a good race joke to how questions of identity swirl around reality TV, Dungeons and Dragons, and BBLs, Code Switch guides you through all of the different spaces that people of color live in and what it's like to navigate them. Code Switch doesn't just talk to you about race and identity in the abstract. It tackles real everyday questions like how to create boundaries with immigrant parents or tips on how to speak to family members whose racial views might feel stuck in the Stone Age. From what James Baldwin can teach us about Israel to unpacking Kamala Harris's identity politics to exploring the long history of sex testing in sports, Code Switch gets really real about the ways that race and identity in the headlines can affect the way we think about race and identity at home. I was recently listening to an episode. It was an Ask Code Switch. Is it a preference or a fetish? Really good episode. Every new episode of Code Switch feels like a love letter to the ways that race and identity are always connected, and how your life, no matter who you are, is made richer by thinking about them. Listen to Code Switch from NPR wherever you get your podcasts. I wake up Thursday morning. The first thing I do is text the travel agent, because I'm determined to get to Miami. Even when I decided I was going to South Africa, when I booked the ticket, I knew when ABFF was. I came back a week early to give myself time to acclimate to the time schedule and get all my ish together so I could go to ABFF. I love this event. And we hadn't even worked things out with Cadillac. I'd thrown out the idea. It was literally an elevator pitch. This was right after ABFF honors. And I was like, what do you think about doing a Ratchet and Respectable live at ABFF? And Juanita from Cadillac was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. So she said, let's do it. But it was so casual and there were no contracts or anything written up. And I was like, she's definitely interested in the idea, but will it happen or will it not? People say, let's do it all the time and nothing ever comes of it. Clearly, she was all in. I literally pitched her this idea. She says yes immediately. She invests in literally my dream. And I was like, I have to show up for this. I love this event. One, I live for this. Two, I don't want to let people down. And then also three, this is literally my dream that I'm trying to turn into a reality. Like, I have to get to Miami. Wake up the next day, call the travel agent. They get me on a flight. They're like, the only thing left going to Miami, and not even Miami, Fort Lauderdale, is this Southwest flight. And you're the last person booked on it. And I was like, okay, like, I'll take it. And she's like, you understand you're flying to Miami in the middle seat. Because usually when they fly me around, it's everything business class. It's everything white glove service. It's a good experience. But they're like, we doing what we can to get you where you need to be. Let's do it. So we booked this Southwest flight. When my parents wake up, my dad comes into the foyer because we brought my bags into the house and I just like left them in the foyer. I've got them spread out. I'm pulling stuff out of the bags, the stuff that I didn't need from day one because I'm doing 3 outfit changes a day down here. My dad was like, why are you unpacking here? He was like, do you need me to help you take your bags to your room? And I was like, no. I'm taking out the stuff I don't need. And he was like, huh? And I was like, oh yeah, I have like a 3:00 flight to Miami. And he was like, Demetria. He was like, Babe, Miami's underwater. There are lightning storms. There are torrential downpours. It's flooded. You're not going to make it to Miami. And I was like, you don't understand. I have to get to Miami. At the very least, I have to try. He was like, okay. He looked at me like I was crazy. But then he like goes off to the kitchen. So a Cadillac appears in the driveway again, second day in a row, to take me to the airport. This time to BWI. On the way to the airport, the flight gets delayed. Fine. Delayed is not denied. Get to the airport. I go to Miss Shirley's. That's like a Baltimore institution for soul food. They have fried green tomatoes. Those are hard to come by, but they're in season. They put a little crab meat on top of Miss Shirley's. So I got the extra crab meat just because like I needed a win. I needed a win in life. Crab meat is a win. The flight does board. It's a little bit late, but it does board. We are going to Miami. The captain comes to talk to us. He says, I know a lot of y'all have been trying to get down to Miami or Florida, Fort Lauderdale, whatever, for the last couple days. I'm going to get you down there, folks. Like, I got you. Great, Captain. Let's go. I'm sitting between a mother and a daughter. The mother literally could have been my sister. Actually could have been my twin. Actually could have been me. I look like hell because this is my second day of travel. And I had to travel with a scarf on my head because my hair was in Sealy twist. But she was like all done up. Like I'm usually done up, except she had braids instead of big hair. But she literally had on like my whole travel uniform from like the hoodie to the Lanvin sneakers. And I was like, oh my God, this is me. And I love that even me looking crazy, she saw like the her in me and we like cackled and kikied a little bit. She and her daughter and some other family members were sitting nearby. They're from Kentucky and they were trying to get to a cruise that was leaving out of Fort Lauderdale. I think this was day 2 for them trying to get down there. Everybody on this plane has a story about some foolishness and fuckery trying to travel to either Miami or Fort Lauderdale. Captain tells everybody to take their seats. I text my team. I was like, the plane's about to take off. Like, we good. So excited. I'm going to make it to Miami. Obviously, I've missed the first day of taping, but they decided to do a marathon session on Friday. And I'm like, boom, we're good. No need to worry. I'm definitely on my way. Woo-hoo! Put my headphones on, put my Usher playlist on. Sit back, relax. The storm must literally be over if we're able to get to South Florida. There's like a ding. This is your captain speaking. Nigga. The captain says, I'm so sorry to tell you this. He said, Fort Lauderdale has just closed its airport. He said, we are not able to travel at this time. He says, Fort Lauderdale has informed me that they will give us an update in 2 hours time from now. I would recommend that you stay on the plane. If we get clearance, he was like, I will get you to Miami. But for the most part, you just gonna have to sit on the plane for 2 hours and wait to see what happens with Fort Lauderdale, 120 minutes from now. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They're not kidding me. So I sat there in the middle seat for 2 hours waiting for an update from Fort Lauderdale. It really wasn't that bad. I was listening to Usher and then scrolling on my phone. It wasn't the end of earth. But after the 2 hours, which sounds crazy, but after you've flown to Detroit and then waited 2 hours and then flown back from Detroit the day before, everything else is kind of minor. So after the 2 hours, Fort Lauderdale opens its airport and we're good to go. Like we fly down. The captain, prepared us. He was like, because of the storms, there'll probably be really bad turbulence. I've experienced so much worse. It was nothing to write home about. We land in Fort Lauderdale. I get a text. I'm like scared to answer my phone because every time I get a text, text is like somebody telling me a flight is canceled. I have PTSD from the text on my phone. But a text comes through, and it's just my driver. I'm waiting for you at baggage claim. It's number 8 or whatever. I have a sign with your name on it, so look for me when you get here. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I go to baggage claim and I get my stuff and I follow my driver in the bags to my Escalade, and he promptly drives me to Miami. It's not even raining. It's wet outside. Like, it had been raining, but it's not even raining in Fort Lauderdale. Like, it's a clear, balmy night. We get to Miami. There's some drizzle. That's it. When I got here, my producer was literally waiting outside for me with my room key and all my credentials for the weekend. And so he brought my bags upstairs. He was like, okay, so the truck will be here at midnight. I'm like, it's 10:30. I've been trying to travel since like 12:45. Like, the Escalade picked me up from my house at 12:45. For like 10 hours, I've been in some form of transit. I'm not transitioning any further. And he was like, yeah, the white party is tonight. And I was like, the white party was last night. And he was like, no. The white party got moved from last night to tonight because of the weather. So we're going to go to the white party. He was like, you deserve the white party. After all you've been through, you deserve everything that ABFF has to offer. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try. And did. I had this really cute white dress. It has like, what's the proper word for it? Not keyholes. Let's go with keyholes because I can't remember the proper name for the dress. Technically, it's a caftan that you would throw over a bathing suit, but it's bright white and it's really cute. And the design is like absolutely amazing. And it's like super luxurious. Like, I super love it. And it has this like nude slip that goes underneath it. Apparently, when I was repacking, I didn't put the slip back in the bag. And this is my only white outfit because I thought there was no white party. I just really bought this one to wear to the beach or the pool if the weather clears up. I was like, yo, well, I got a nude bra and I got some nude Spanx. And I was like, it's dark outside. It'll be dark in the party. Like, nobody will realize that I'm like basically walking around in my drawers. And then I was like, you know what? It's Miami. Nobody would really care if I was walking around in my drawers. Like, I don't even have to put the caftan over it. Like, I could literally just go outside in my drawers and I won't be the least dressed person at the party. For sure. And wasn't. So yeah, it was great. So that was night 1. And the next day was Ratchet and Respectable Live, sponsored by Cadillac. Like, that was really amazing. Gave you the details of that already. Went to a party that night. Issa Rae is, I don't know the proper name, I guess like the creative director of ABFF this year. Last year it was Lena Waithe. They're getting some good people to come in and make magic. But Issa's a creative director, so she threw a party. Everybody and their mother was there. I saw, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's the star of Reasonable Doubt. She's from South Africa. I will butcher her name if I try, so I don't even want to do it. But the star of the show, real cute brown girl. And I love Reasonable Doubt. Love. I ran into her after an event last night and I was like, I just love you. Like, I love Reasonable Doubt. So I'm very excited about Morris Chestnut coming next season. And so she was like, girl, it's everything. And I was like, I can't wait. Morris Chestnut was not here, by the way. I looked for him. Or Lorenz Tate, because I always ask about him too. Or Meth. I asked about him too. They were not here. McKinley Freeman, who plays her husband on the show, he was there. He's super tall in real life. Like, he looks tall on TV because he is tall. Richard Lawson, Miss Tina's ex-husband or estranged husband. I don't know if the divorce was final. He was outside. He's been outside all weekend. He was outside. He was at the white party, hanging out, kind of dressed like Michael Jackson. That military chic sort of look. It was cute. It was a cute look. Lynn Whitfield came strolling through at 2 a.m. and I was like, I'm not here to judge. There were so many people. Obviously, Issa, Kendrick, what was his name on the show? The light-skinned dude that was the boyfriend on the show that I think was he bipolar? He had some mental health issues. His character did. He was there. A bunch of people who I'm like, I couldn't quite place, but I was like, I know you. You've been on something that I watch. I just can't pull what exactly it is. Another man, I know who he is, but I don't want to say his name because I wrote about it. I watch TV and sometimes I'll highlight the really cute guys on the show. But I had highlighted him once, like a few years ago. Just fine and wide and just lovely, just absolutely lovely. But I talked about him. He DM'd me to say thank you. And he was like, we have a bunch of mutual friends. And then I think that was like around COVID. But when the world opened up, I would go to events and I would run into him because he's like an actor and then I talk about TV and film all the time. I started running into him at events, so we became friendly. So I saw him last night, and I was like, hey, like smiling with all my damn teeth. And so he comes over, and he gives me a hug. Like he smashed me into him. But he's like concrete, brick wall, built tough, like just wide and solid. It hurt, but I liked it. It was wonderful. I saw him last night too, and I did the same thing. And I was like, hey, just so he would like smash me into him. Like, am I me tooing? He's the one doing most of the hugging. He's doing the tight embrace. I'm just there to be embraced. Just wide and fine. That's a whole separate thing. We're moving on. But yeah, lots of people just sort of like mixing and mingling. I saw Bevy at the white party. I didn't see her at Issa. Bevy be outside. I left the white party at 2 o'clock. Bevy texted me at 3 a.m. talk about where you at. Ma'am, I am in the bed. Where are you at? She didn't respond, which means she wasn't in the bed. I did her radio show after I got off stage for Ratchet and Respectable. I went over there and we talked for like 20, 30 minutes live, which I don't think I realized it was live. I'm used to doing a podcast. So like I say whatever I want. And if it's too much, I just go through and edit it. But she said something on the show and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would she do that? And she was like, Demetria. And I was like, what? She was like, we're not trying to like disturb the hustle. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, no, I love her. I was just confused by that choice. Like I didn't trying to clean it up. I really do love the woman. I wasn't trying to be funny style. I was trying to understand the logic, but forgot we were live. My bad. Everyone's favorite is back. Keke Palmer's podcast is back and it's too good. She has questions for days, and now she's diving into the brains of entertainment's best and brightest to get some answers. From Snoop Dogg to Jordan Peele to Quinta Brunson to John Stamos to Amy Poehler, Keke is getting to the bottom of the burning questions that keep us up at night. I can't wait to listen to her episode with Quinta Brunson. If you love Keke, you'll love Baby, This is Keke Palmer. She's her most authentic self, going all in on everything in her life and in the lives of her celebrity guests. Follow, watch, and listen to Baby, This is Keke Palmer on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. And now watch full episodes on Keke's own YouTube channel. Listen to Baby, This is Keke Palmer early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. I know that none of you watch porn, but just in case you have any friends that do, help me pass along this important PSA. Incognito mode does not make you incognito. Check the fine print. All your late night activities are still 100% visible to a ton of third parties, unless you use ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/ratchet. That's expressvpn.com/ratchet. And you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/ratchet. There's a bunch of people down here. I can't even go through the whole list. Nia Long is here. I didn't see her though. I saw her in a bunch of people's pictures. A bunch of people went to the Netflix brunch. Apparently Netflix served everybody an 8-course brunch. And I was like, that's what's up. Also, budget. Y'all got monies. The pictures look real cute. I was supposed to go, but I had that 2-hour marathon session. And I'd had those 2 horrible traveling days. So I needed to like prep and make sure I was good for the actual work that I needed to do. I had to make sure I was right for that. So I had to send a note to the Netflix people and say I couldn't make it. But apparently everybody and their mother went over there. They're promoting a new film with Andra Day that's coming out later this year. I'm sure we'll talk about it when it gets closer to the release date. So that was Friday. And then Saturday, I was in the bed most of the day because 2 days of travel. And then Friday, I was on for those 2 hours straight. I think sometimes like journalists make it look easy. So people think it is. It's not. There's a lot of prep that goes into the performance, because that's what it is, of a good interview. Being well versed in your subject matter and being able to adapt to different personalities and being able to hold a conversation that is both informative but also engaging for your audience. But there's a lot that goes into prep for those type of events. And then just doing 2 hours as a marathon, unedited, just being on for that long is it's work. And if you do it right, it doesn't look like work, but it is. But I was just like mentally exhausted. So I like laid in the bed for most of Saturday when I should have been recording the podcast. I know. But I laid in the bed and I watched Bridgerton. If we have time today, we'll talk about the latest 4 episodes of Bridgerton. It just came out though, so maybe we won't. Maybe we'll save that for Tuesday's episode when people have a chance to really get through the weekend and watch it. But the last 4 episodes are really, really good. I haven't screamed at a screen in a very long time. And I was screaming at the screen on multiple occasions. Sometimes WTF, sometimes like, get it, get it, get it, get it. It's a lot of good things and a lot of drama. Oh my God, there's so much drama. So many twists and turns. The last 4 episodes of Bridgerton 3, I think, are better than all the other Bridgertons so far. I really didn't particularly care for Bridgerton 2. I liked Bridgerton 1, but I liked the series with the Queen better than I liked Bridgerton 1. In terms of the Bridgerton that we've seen so far, I think part 2 of Bridgerton 3 is number 1, and then part 1 of Bridgerton 3, and then the series with the Queen, and then Bridgerton 1, and then Bridgerton 2. That's how I would rank them. It's so good. If you haven't had a chance to see it, you really should. It's an amazing weekend, at least for what I like to watch. The Boys came out, is it season 3, season 4? I love The Boys, to the point that I started watching the spinoffs, but I haven't seen any of the new episodes. Amazon Prime just dropped 3 new episodes, I think on Friday night, because I saw a bunch of people talking about Laz Alonso. People were watching it and thought that Amazon had replaced Laz Alonso, and they were like, no, wait, that is Laz Alonso. He's just half his size. Apparently, Laz Alonso has lost a shit ton of weight to the point that he's unrecognizable, and he shaved his beard. I saw so many people talking about Laz Alonso's appearance that I went and looked it up. I personally think Laz Alonso is a god among mere mortals. Like, he's another one. I've known him forever and a day. He's a very nice guy. He's from back home. I literally started watching The Boys because I heard Laz Alonso was in it. I was like, let me make sure the black man gets his streams. I like to see employed black folks. He also did me a big, big solid when A Belle in Brooklyn came out. I was hosting an event in LA, and I called Laz and was like, hey, could you host my event? Because, like, I don't really have a big LA presence. And he was like, I got you. That man read the book. He actually sat down and read, like, the whole of Belle in Brooklyn, I think as a PDF. Showed up at the event. I got there early, and he was already there. He did this amazing opening and mentioned all these different things from the book. And I was like, this mofo read the book? And he told me later, he was like, yeah, it was good. He's like, I started reading it just to, like, get a sense. And he was like, I couldn't put it down. And I was like, oh my God. And then stayed the whole event and, like, took pictures and was like kikiing with everybody. And I was like, I will go to the ends of earth for you. Plus you fine. That's the cherry on top. He's a good dude. That's the actual cake. I had actually reached out to him to do Ratchet and Respectable live for this ABFF. And he was filming in London. He was like, if I was there, I got you. I reached out to Michael Ealy too. And he was like, if I was there, he's filming in Budapest. He was like, have you been to Budapest? And I was like, actually, I have. Like, they have such amazing food. He was like, where? So I had to send him my food list. The first thing he saw, and he was like, it's a cookie place? And I was like, those are the best cookies I've ever had in my life. Remember I went to Budapest and I could not stop talking about the cookies? I sent Michael Ealy to my cookie spot. My life, I swear. It's a goddamn sitcom. It ain't always a comedy, though. And I was like, isn't a sitcom by nature of what it is supposed to be comedy? Why so much drama? Why? But back to Laz. All these people were talking about Laz, so I went and looked, and I was like, my friend needs to eat. He's still fine. They could never make you unattractive. Never, Laz, never. But my friend does need some sandwiches. If he's single, I'll make him. If he's not single, whoever he with, please make him some sandwiches. Club sandwiches. Put an extra piece of bread in the middle. Focus on the carbs. Put like a fried green tomato on it. Get them calories up. And the beard. Bring the beard back. His bare face is beautiful, but the beard and some extra, like he was like, like wide size. He not wide size no more. He thin. That's not what we're supposed to be talking about. No, we were talking about it's a great weekend in television. Today, literally today, if I wasn't recording this, I would probably be on HBO Max because I suspect that the new episode is up. It always comes out early. The dragons are back. I told you the dragons were coming. I thought they were coming next week. I didn't realize the dragons came back today. House of Dragons. That's not the name of the show, by the way. Black people just call it House of Dragons or Dragons. But it's back after, is it a year hiatus? Maybe 2. I read that HBO Max hiked up the price of the streaming service because they know we're not going to cancel. We done waited 2 years to see the damn dragons. That CGI better be everything. I'm paying an extra $2 a month, an extra $24 a year. all these millions of subscribers, that's CGI on them dragons. I better think those dragons are in 3D and about to fly out my TV. They so greedy because they know we're not going to cancel right now. We're going to bitch about it. We're going to complain about it, but we're going to watch at least for the next 2 months. What's the alternative? Not see the dragons? That's not a choice.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
That's it, I think, for good TV, but not for ABFF. So yesterday, stayed in bed all day, watched Bridgerton, which we're not recapping until next week. We'll talk about everything else. I should be able to see the boys and the dragons by Tuesday because I'm just going to stay in Miami and hang out. I had to go to New York next week anyway, so I'm just going to fly straight from Miami to New York. So stay in bed all day. And then last night, this was fun. ABFF started this new program, if you will, called Retrospective. And it's the first year they're doing it. And the first person that they decided to highlight was Denzel Washington. So all week they've been showing old Denzel films. And then last night, Denzel Washington came to ABFF. I was there. I was in the 5th row. I waited till he sat down and the room sat down because obviously he got a standing ovation when he came out. But he sat down and the room sat down, that it started to quiet down. And I was that ignorant, loud black person that was like, "We love you, Denzel." Maybe I said, "I love you, Denzel." I felt like my mother's spirit had jumped into me. And I felt like she would approve of me yelling like this in public. Usually she wouldn't, but I feel like she would make an exception for just this time. And then the whole room burst into applause again. And I was like, I feel good about my choices. I feel like I've done what needed to be done. I've told Denzel how we or I feel. I don't remember which one I yelled. The interview was ungood. Denzel was amazing. And I would say more if I had paid my way down to ABFF, but I'm here on behalf of a sponsor. So I'm going to temper my words and I'm just going to focus on the highlights, which were entirely and completely Denzel. And just say, like, Demetria, don't be a hater. You're jealous because you weren't on the stage. I mean, I would have liked to be the interviewer for Denzel for obvious reasons. Any journalist would. He's A-list. He's a get, right? It was so, like, the interview was so ungood that at one point, the entire audience began chanting, "Go off script," basically telling the interviewer to put their notes down. It was that. I'm going to stop using, what's the word? Adjectives. I'm just telling you facts. It was that. But Denzel was lovely. He showed up looking like he was like fresh off a Target run. Like he'd done his errands for the day. He'd gotten a car washed and he might have ran by Home Depot. But he looked like he called home and was like, "I'm on my way back. Do you need anything?" And his wife told him to go get something from Target. And then was like, "Oh shit, I got to go to ABFF." And that's what he showed up as. He had a fresh haircut. He had on just like a black tee, some black pants, nothing remarkable, just chilling. And then sat on the stage like he was in his living room, like in his recliner. He is in his old black man phase, which I feel comfortable saying. I know we don't like to think of Denzel as old, but he's 69. Like he's a grandfatherly age, and acts like it. I have this theory that all old black men worldwide turn into the same person, and Denzel has turned into an old black man. His giving of fucks is, the factory is out. He's fresh out. There are no more fucks to give. We weren't allowed to take video. And the only reason I didn't buck the rule is because I was there with the sponsor. And then also out of respect for ABFF. I really like and enjoy Nicole and Jeff Friday. I also think that they wouldn't hesitate to like throw my black ass out on some like, "D, you know better." I told you Jeff like had to side eye me and Scott at the event. He gave us the straight father side eye. And I was like, "You're not old enough to be my dad." But he could be my uncle. And I did recognize the side eye as fatherly, so I had to pipe down just a little. He's real nice, but he don't really play. And I was like, okay. I love how in gatherings of black people, everyone just takes on familial roles. But they wouldn't let us video, so I took a few notes. And then like I put my phone down because I wanted to be in the moment for Denzel. I wrote about some highlights on Instagram, but I'm recording on my phone, so I don't want to mess up the sound. Let me see if I can remember like my top 5. One, he started the interview. He reads the Daily Word every day. And the first question the interviewer asked, she said, well, what motivates you as an actor? Like, what gets you out of bed every morning? And his response was, God. And then the interviewer, she wasn't very great at asking follow-up questions. She didn't ask a single follow-up question for the entire interview. But Denzel, he recognized, she's a little awkward. Maybe she's nervous or something like that. So he pulled the Daily Word, because apparently he carries it with him. He pulled the Daily Word out of his back pocket. And then he also pulled out his reading glasses and then read the Daily Word for us, because he was like, I feel like y'all might need it. So he read the Daily Word for us. Like, he started with a little bit and he's like, do you need more? Should I continue? And we were like, please do. As an audience, we were one. So he read the entire Daily Word for us. We started off with a little church, and I was like, this is very Black. This is a very Black experience. And then the interviewer pointed out, and she said, ABFF started, I think, 28 years ago. I don't remember exactly what the date. Was that 1996? It's the year I graduated from high school. And they pointed out that in 1998, that Denzel came to ABFF. And when Jeff Friday was doing his opener, he said the very first ABFF down in Acapulco, 90 people came. Now there are thousands of people, but they had to grow to that. So the first event, 90 people came, which is a good turnout, right? He said the year that Denzel came, he announced that he was going, and then 800 people came, because Denzel was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. So the interviewer says, this is a new event. It's only been going on for a couple years. You're one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, if not the biggest star in Hollywood. Why did you decide to go to ABFF? And he was like, American, Black. That's it. That's all he said. And so she was trying to prompt him. And so she was like, that's it, just American and Black. And he said, well, I think I'm American. I'm pretty sure I'm American. And he said, I'm definitely Black. The American Blacks were celebrating film. And I went. Denzel is a notoriously difficult is not the right word. You got to know how to approach him. Denzel acts, and I'm phrasing it this way very intentionally. Acting is what he does, but it is not who he is. Who he is an American Black man. Everything he does, everything he says, and how he thinks is through the lens of being an American Black man. It's not through the lens of being an actor. So when you interview him, it's very important to know that. You'd be better talking to him about politics and race than you are actually talking to him about film. He thrives when you approach him almost like you're talking in a barbershop. He's an old Black man. What do you want? She asked him about his favorite roles. He was like, oh, I don't do that. I don't do that conversation. It's for the audience to determine what their favorite is. He also doesn't watch movies in general. She was like, oh, what are some of your favorite movies? And he was like, I don't watch movies. And she was like, you're a film star and you don't watch movies? And he was like, no, I've never been into them. All of his kids work in TV and film in some capacity, either as producers or directors, or John David Washington, actor. And he was like, they get all that from their mother. Their mother is really into TV and film. He was like, that's not really my thing. I'm like, sir, you're one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood and you don't watch film? He does not. He only watches his own films one time. He only does that so he can have a knowledgeable conversation when he's on press tour. But he's like, sit around and watch his own movies. Nope. A lot of artists are like that. Artists across different genres. He talked about going to the White House. The interviewer asked him a question. This was actually a really good question. She said she read an interview from Barack Obama, and he talked about embracing his inner Denzel or something like that. And Denzel actually blushed. He seemed very flattered about that. And then he told this story about how he went to the White House. And he was like, I'm at the White House. And he's in the Oval Office. And he says, Barack Obama said, can I ask you something? And he was like, the President of the United States wants to ask me something. And he was like, of course, President, please ask. And he says, Barack Obama asked him, he said, do you color your gray? That's hilarious to me. I was like, oh my God, Barack Obama is paranoid about his gray. He got so stressed out in office because he had black hair when he went in. And then by the time he left, he was like either all gray or damn near. He was like, I'm in the White House, meeting the first Black president, and he's asking me about Just for Men. He's so funny. The interviewer asked him, I'm specifically not saying her name for a reason, his impressions of different people that he worked with. and she ran off a list as opposed to, naming them individually and giving Denzel a chance to answer. One of the people that she ran off on the list, and I don't remember because it's the only one he responded to, was Whitney Houston. They worked together on The Preacher's Wife. His answer about Whitney was he felt very protective of her. He said she has this hard demeanor, like she's strong and she could face anything. And he was like, but she couldn't. He teared up when he answered that question. And I was like, oh. He called his wife, Miss Pauletta, like on FaceTime in the middle of the interview. When I tell y'all it was the most bizarre interview ever. And not because he called Pauletta, like he was trying to save the interview. But he called his wife on FaceTime and then put her on speaker. Told her, like, yeah, I'm on stage. And then turned the phone around so like everybody could wave at her, which we all did. We yelled and screamed because, we all know Miss Pauletta. She was mad at him. And so she was like, you calling me and I got my head wrap on. I don't have my girlfriend on. And he was like, what's the girlfriend? That's your hair? She ain't have her wig on. She was like, I can't believe you called me like this. Father's Day is tomorrow. And she was like, you are not getting any gifts. He said, I still get cake though. And I was like, wait a minute. It's the way he said it. I was like, that man ain't talking about no red velvet, no yellow cake, no German chocolate cake. I think he might be talking about a different kind of cake. And I was like, oh my God, Mom and Dad, please stop. Oh, also, when he called his wife, the phone was ringing and he was like waiting for her to pick up. And like, he had like this tinge of like excitement, like anticipation. I'm like, y'all been married for like 40 some odd years. And like, he's still getting excited about Pauletta answering the phone and talking to him. You know how Barack gets just sort of like, for lack of a better word, just like Randy about Michelle. He just gets excited about her. And I was like, oh, he still gets excited about his wife. I might maybe be able to do a husband again if I had a husband like that. I'm just saying. He was trying to get back in Miss Pauletta's good graces. And apparently Miss Pauletta like really likes Issa Rae. And Issa was in the audience. He stands up and goes to the edge of the stage and just gives Issa Rae the phone. And she's like talking to Pauletta, but like on the microphone. Like it was bizarre, but also completely entertaining. And I was like, oh my God, I love him. I love him. I sent a picture to my mom and her response was, oh my God. That's it. It was really good. The only thing, this is my only criticism of the entire festival. And I don't think it's the festival's fault. There was a lot of rearranging that had to be done. The Luther Vandross documentary that I've been talking about forever and a day, it was screening at ABFF at the same time that Denzel is physically on stage. I think Denzel went on at 7:30. I think the Luther doc started at 7. We pulled up to Denzel at 6:30 and the line was literally down the block and around the corner. Every black person who signed up for the festival had tried to go see Denzel. And I was like, was there anybody at Luther? Really bad timing, but I think the Luther documentary had to be moved. And I really, really, really want to see this documentary. And I don't know how I'm going to get a chance to see it. Maybe there's a screening in New York while I'm there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else from ABFF. It's been a really packed weekend. There was a yacht party last night. They said it was a yacht party. In my head, I was like, oh, it's just going to be a boat. It was like a proper, like a billionaire sized boat. Like somebody made a joke and they were like, oh yeah, it's like a Kevin Hart sized yacht. The idea that like little men, like big cars, big yachts, like they're compensating. It was huge. It was a good party. But that's been ABFF. And I think I brought you up to speed on everything up until this morning. Technically, there's events today, like there's screening. I think there's some community service stuff. But it's also Father's Day. I was supposed to originally fly back to D.C. to be with my father for Father's Day. And he was like, I ain't gonna be here. And I was like, Daddy, are you serious? Like, I came back from Africa. And he was like, okay, I'll be back on Monday. And I was... I did see him all last week. I'm literally living with my parents for summer. I guess every day is Father's Day, except actual Father's Day, because my father is in Mississippi. I was like, my cousin had a baby. My baby cousin. I don't even think he's 30. But my baby cousin just had a baby, and he and his family are taking the baby to Mississippi for the first time. And so my dad is going to Mississippi for a funeral as well. And also he wanted to be there because he hasn't met the baby yet. And I would have gone, but I had already booked this by the time my cousin announced that he was going to Mississippi because I want to meet the baby. And I was like, my baby cousin. I was like, oh my God. Like I met him for the first time when he was 2. I went with his mother, may she rest in peace, to daycare to pick him up. He was asleep on this mat when we got there, and he was the most beautiful child that I'd ever seen. And I started crying because he was so beautiful. Like, because he was asleep, like, we picked him up. Like, his mother had him. And she was like, I carry him all the time. You take him. I was like, you are deceptively large and heavy. But he woke up while I was carrying him. Like, he looked up at me, and I guess he decided I was okay. I looked similar to his mom. So I guess he was like, oh, she must be safe. Like, she looks like family. I don't know. But I was trying to put him in his car seat, and I had never put a baby in a car seat before. And I was like, how hard can it be? So I was trying to figure it out. So he let me fumble around for a minute, and then finally he just grabbed it from me and, like, locked himself in. And I was like, okay, like, I'm not smarter than a 2-year-old. But that baby now has his own baby. I'm like, oh my God, I'm old. All right, that's the episode. Thank you for your patience. The episode, just, I'm going to let you know, like, as long as I'm doing this Ratchet and Respectable tour, it's going to be a little off. Like, I'm still trying to figure out BET Experience, Baby Black Girls Rock, and Essence, which are all within the next, 30 days, something like that. So our schedule is going to be off. I will always give you behind the scenes and always the really good details that I get. That's the job, and I love sharing that with you, so I hope you love hearing about it. But we're going to be a little delayed, but not denied, for most of the summer. I don't know if this is actually much different than my overseas life, but I'm far more exhausted. But here we are. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. And we will be back on Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know what day I'm leaving Miami yet. Depends on what's going on in New York. If I get on the list for this event that I really want to go to, we probably going to be late. Just FYI. We'll see. I'll do my best. I always give you that. All right. Talk soon. Bye.